Hello, beer lovers, and welcome to a new episode of The Tap, brought to you by Gravity Beverage. The Tap is a webcast that talks about all things beer with co-hosts Lee Neujahr and Joe Mentele.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of The Tap Brewcast. I am Lee.
And I'm Joe.
Thanks for joining us again today. Today's topic is summer beers. Beers that you consume in the warmest months of the year. What are they? How does that look around the world? And how is that looking nowadays as the beer scene continues to evolve? So let's get right into it. So what is the world really looking for in a summer beer? And I don't know about you, but this is some of my favorite stuff to drink. I love summertime. I'm not too good in heat, but I really appreciate a good summer beer. So what are we really looking for? Anything crisp and refreshing. That's pretty much the baseline. Get that down, you got a good summer beer started. It's usually lighter in color or low SRMs, as we say in the biz. It's lower alcohol. You know, you're not slamming a 7% IPA or a 9% Imperial Stout in the summertime. It's got to be lower. Usually hoppy or fruity, either made with a little bit more hops to bring out some citrusy notes, or you're actually putting fruit into the beer. It's not lame. It's actually widely accepted all over the world to put fruit in your beer. Totally an okay thing to do. What else are we looking for in a summer beer?
Well, usually, which probably seems obvious, is a summer beer is usually served pretty darn cold. It's not like a stout or a real heavy beer that maybe is a little bit warm. This is going to be ice cold or close to it, just for that refreshing sip, on a hot day mowing the lawn or whatever. It's served pretty much anywhere when the temperature is above, say, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So springtime, crack those summer beers, and often consumed outside, and also usually going to be a little lighter in calories, not so much of a heavy-bodied beer.
Yeah, we can kind of thank the jogging culture of the 70s for giving us light beer, which can be heavily enjoyed in the summer months. So anything under 100 calories, we can get into hard seltzers another day, but for now, summer beers. Let's get into it. What are you drinking?
Well, right now I am having, for my first time ever, a Golden Road Mango Cart, and this is actually a wheat ale, so it really fits in with the summer plan. There, wheat ales usually are pretty light, and refreshing, and that mango flavor. So I'm really looking forward to trying it. How about you?
Awesome. So I noticed down the street that they're selling a shandy with huckleberry from Western Collective. And I'm really excited to try this one again because I love a good shandy. I'm a huge fan of Stiegl Radler. So yeah, let's get into it. 3, 2, 1. It's a great sound. Oh, it's such a great sound. So this one has huckleberry in it, and you gotta love that color. One thing I noticed working in tap rooms over the years is if you send a beer across the bar with a really brilliant color like that, people are going to say, what is that? It's kind of like the fajita effect when you're ordering fajitas at a restaurant. What's that sizzling platter? Versus like, what's that weirdly colored, fun looking beer? Anyways, yeah, get into it. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, wow. Wow. So this has a mango aroma and then also really kind of a body to it that must come from the fruit of the mango and the unfermented sugars from the mango. That's really nice.
Yeah, that beer is modeled after people who run fruit carts all over Los Angeles, where you buy some fruit, they chop it up really nicely for you, put it in a bag, and then squeeze some lime and do either some salt or some chili powder over it. Shake the bag up, open it up, put a fork in it, send you on your way. It's delicious. I love that. And if you actually go to that brewery, they'll serve it to you in kind of that way with those same spices and citrus. So, summer beers, like, what does that mean to the rest of the world? How does it show up? So I think the best example of that is the originator, and that's Germany.
Well, Germany probably is one of the most developed summer beer cultures in the world. Um, they basically started in Bavaria, where uh, Al, Albert V actually decreed that beer couldn't be made in the summer months, um, because fire danger was higher, and also because the beer just didn't last as long. So they would make these light beers in the wintertime that would be ready and beautiful for drinking, nice and crisp and tasty in the summer. And then large breweries started planting a bunch of trees around their brewery and building out these big gardens to entice people to come in there. When it's a hot day, they can sit in the shade and drink beers. And of course, beer gardens were born, and they are here to stay.
I love a good beer garden. You know, if I ever stumble across one anywhere in the world, I will have a beer there. That's probably my favorite environment for enjoying like a summer beer. The big thing also in Germany is Berliner Weisses. If you go to Berlin, they're going to make you this really low ABV. We're talking like 2.5 to 3% tart wheat beer. So a beer brewed with a heavy amount of wheat to bring out those kind of bright citrusy notes. And then they're also going to add a little bit of lactobacillus or even sometimes Brettanomyces, which is a basically lactic acid producing bacteria that'll give you a slight tartness. So really clear, super light colored, mildly tart beer that they actually serve to you in these big schooners, and they'll ask you, do you want to add a little syrup to it? The most common ones that I see are usually raspberry or this weird green one, like this neon green one called Woodruff. And I've tried it. It's actually delicious. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. The other big thing that I noticed in Germany, and a little bit beyond there even too in Austria, is this thing called a Radler. And they're basically taking beer and soda and making a half and half blend of that. Where does that exactly come from? Well, you go way about like a century ago, this guy named Franz Kugler paved a bike path through the woods that ended up at his brew pub or his huge bar. He made just light lager there, but around that time, people were really getting into bike riding. So people would take this path through the woods, which was gorgeous, end up at his brewery, and he would just be overwhelmed with customers. So to prevent himself from running out of beer, he would blend it with like a citrus soda, usually like a lemon soda. And that's where we get a Radler, which actually means like a bike rider or a cyclist. I think they're delicious. I love them. So another huge region of the world that's become influential in summer beers is Belgium and the Netherlands.
Well, Belgium, obviously, huge influence on beer culture around the world. And one of their main contributions to summer beers is Widmer, which is basically a wheat beer. And some people confuse it with white. It actually means wheat, but such a light colored beer that people think about it as a white beer. And a lot of places actually call it white beer. And they would serve that with, they would brew it, I mean, with things like coriander and orange peel, and to give it those distinctive kind of spicy flavors. And then right across the border from them in France, there was a lot of crossover between Belgium and France in brewing culture. But what really sticks out in the French brewing scene is the farmhouse ales and saisons that they were making back, and they still make. And a lot of those ones are really going to be kind of a floral and spicy kind of beer, and they can vary quite a bit. Sometimes really clear, sometimes pretty cloudy, sometimes kind of golden, sometimes all the way to orange. And they're usually served in the summer, and usually it was like a house beer. You'd go to stay at an estate and you would have their beer and their saison or their summer beers.
Yeah, so researching like how people are reacting to being creative with summer beers, I came across this drink that they're serving in Monaco, which is a supremely wealthy nation on the south of France. It's just a little strip of land, basically, just full of casinos. But they drink a lager with lemonade, and they do a little dash of grenadine on the top. So it looks sophisticated, but it's really just a rich man's pour beverage that you can get all over the place in the summertime. I tried one because I do have a little bit of grenadine at home. It's delicious. I was like, how is this idea not taken off everywhere? And then I looked into it a little bit, and any place that serves a beer cocktail, you can ask them to do that and they will make it for you. It's really easy. But yeah, lager, lemonade, grenadine. Speaking of the lemonade though, pretty much half of the world really enjoys the thing that I'm drinking right now, which is called the shandy. England, Austria, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. It really took off in the UK, and then anywhere that the UK colonized, they seem to adopt the style of taking lemonade and blending it with beer. Sometimes ginger beer would also be used as well. But to this day, I'm actually all for a shandy. I'm not even too proud to not admit that I love a good shandy every now and then. Totally fine with me. But one of my favorite summer beers is what they do in Mexico. And let's talk about it.
Mexican beers are great. Mexico is their beer scene is hugely influenced by German immigrants back in the 1840s, 1850s. There was a lot of people moving from the Germanic states and into the United States and Canada and Mexico. And so the lagers that you get from Mexico are usually very much German-oriented beers. Now, it's pretty common that you get a Mexican beer with a wedge of lime in the bottle. And there's a whole lot of reasons why they say they do that, or why people think that is happening. And I'm not sure exactly which one is 100% true. But part of it is maybe to hide the flavor of maybe a little bit rusted cap on the edge of your beer. And part of it might be to disguise a little bit of skunking in the beer. Or it might be to keep flies out of the bottle, which if you're drinking out on the beach in a tropical place, that kind of makes sense, you know? But I love Mexican beers. There's so many good ones.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I think putting a lime in a Mexican lager has just become so commonplace that's become part of marketing. You think of Corona and how every single time you see a beer in their commercial, it has that wedge of lime on it. You think of all the moves that people do of putting the wedge of lime in your beer, putting your thumb on the top, tipping the bottle upside down. It has to be that way. Like that's kind of the way that they're encouraging you to drink it. So in that they conjure up those feelings of escape, vacation, destination, all that kind of wonderful summer stuff that you're doing. Anyways, my other favorite thing, and probably one of the most open-ended ways of enjoying beer in Mexico, is the Michelada. I mean, come on. Anytime you're walking in a farmer's market in Mexico, there's gonna be a guy making you micheladas there. Beer, tomato, Worcestershire, chili powder, salt, lots and lots of lime, varying quantities, but it's almost always gonna be a little bit bigger than you expect it, which I just absolutely love.
Speaking of a big michelada, I was at the GABF a few years back and cut out to go to this little Mexican brewery. And there were two Mexican breweries side by side, and they were making a 55-gallon drum of michelada. And they just had a keg pouring into it, and they were pouring in cans and cans of tomato juice and stirring it with a big, like an oar. And it was just a party, super fun. And what a great summer scene to be standing out in the sun and sharing micheladas with everybody. There was luchadors, whole 9 yards. It was great.
And did they know what they were doing when they made a huge batch of it? Did you get to taste it, and was it good?
It was, yeah, it was really good. And they, I'm sure they probably made micheladas all the time there, but they were going for the world's largest, which they said they've never been a 55-gallon michelada as far as they know. So
I love it, man. I love that kind of stuff. So now that we've kind of covered that basis internationally, we come back to the USA, which if you're not paying attention in the beer world, the USA is really becoming the innovator across the world. And now we're getting breweries from across the pond or south of the border noticing what we're doing and kind of taking that on as well. But we've had summer beers in the craft scene for decades and decades. And I'm sure people have had a Sam Adams Summer Ale, which is a wheat brewed with all the citruses. Sierra Nevada Summerfest was one of my favorites for years and years and years until they finally discontinued it this year in favor of Summer Break Hazy Session IPA. Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy. I mean, no cougs you lose. Get yourself a Leinenkugel's and go hang out with your in-laws and your grandparents and enjoy yourself a summer shandy. Another one that I kind of noticed was Widmer's Hefeweizen. And if you've ever thought that every single Hefeweizen should have a wedge of orange or a slice of lemon, that's really not a German thing. That's an exclusively American thing, pioneered by Widmer Brewery. They made their Hefeweizen a little bit hoppier, and to kind of accentuate that and push that forward, they were serving it with a wedge of citrus, usually orange or lemon. You won't see that in Germany. Don't ask for it. They're going to give you a weird look and say, go back to America, you weirdo. You're drinking a mango cart, which I absolutely love. Allagash White, you can pretty much buy that anywhere, and it's one of the few Belgian whites that people from Belgium will actually say, you got it right, United States, that's exactly how we like to do it. And then, I don't know if you've been noticing, but the Goza has been super popular over the past like 8 years or so. Every brewery has to have one on at some point in their existence. I think of Westbrook. I think of Anderson Valley's Blood Orange Goza. You can incorporate key lime pie flavors into it, all sorts of different fruits. If you don't know what a Goza is, it's a wheat beer brewed with salt and coriander, made slightly tart. It comes from a very obscure region of northern Germany. They don't really drink it over there very much anymore, but we've adopted it in the US and we have innovated. So now you're seeing all these variations. Brondo the Thirst Mutilator from Drake's. Give it a go. Try a Goza. If you're not a huge beer fan, these are really outside of the normal wheelhouse of beers. And there's a lot of cool innovation going on in there too. So nowadays what we're seeing in beer is this kind of expansion beyond just summer. So what are you doing in the summer? You're camping, you're outdoors, you're hiking, or you're doing nothing at all. You're on vacation, you're just laying there on a hammock or somewhere in your backyard, or you're on a beach. So how do we see that showing up on the shelves these days? Well, I think of Trout Slayer from Big Sky Brewing being the originator. There's some other ones out there too. What do we got?
Oh, you got like Happy Camper from Santa Fe and River Trip from Allagash. I've never had that one. I'd like to try that. I don't know what that one even is. And pretty much anything from Uinta is going to be some kind of an outdoors theme. And then you got a bunch that are just called summer beers. I was at my local grocery store just yesterday, getting myself some mango cart, and they must have had, just at a standard grocery store, about 15 different summer beers. A lot of fruited ones. One from Alaskan Brewing that was a strawberry blonde ale. And I was sorely tempted to get that, but I went for the mango cart because I just never seen that. But all these ones, like Kickback IPA from Drake's, all these different ones that are all themed for your kind of casual goof off summer kind of attitude. I think it's great. I think it's really great.
Yeah, so it's no longer just summer as we all know it. It's like, what are you doing in the summer? You're either doing nothing or you're being really active and healthy about it. So you see both sides of that spectrum with good summer beers. So go out there and find them. This is the time of year to do it. It's 105 out here in Boise. How is it feeling over there where you're at?
It's something in the 90s and a little bit smoky, so need some beer.
So do yourself a favor and find a summer beer. Get something fruited, get something hoppy, serve it cold, get silly with it, put some garnishes on it, have yourself a good time, but make sure that you're at least trying to invite other people into the scene and get some friends involved, because I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to be doing this with the way things have been going, but now's your time. Get together with your friends, enjoy a summer beer before we enter the fall, I guess. But with all that being said, thanks for joining us again on the Tap Brewcast. I am Lee.
I'm Joe.
And from us to you, cheers. We'll see you next time.
All right, bye-bye.